Justin, got a debut now. Tell us why and what are you looking for?
Yeah, obviously Duds is going to debut for us. We feel like need a bit more forward craft after the game on the weekend. 59 inside 50s and didn't kick a winning score. So really happy with the way he's applied himself, learn our system. Feel like he adds a bit of class in the front half, but can also pressure the opposition and play the role we ask. And his form's last 3 weeks at Peel has been solid.
Andrew, any chance of a debutant this weekend in Balmoral?
Yeah, Bo won't debut this week, so I can tell you that now. Played really well in the waffle last week, as many of you will have seen, but he's working hard at his craft and he's getting better, but it won't be this week.
What do you need to see from him to get into the side?
Look, not much more than what he's doing. It's just about opportunity now when that opportunity comes up. And we just want to make sure he's really ready when he does get that chance.
And how did all the guys pull up? Obviously a super hot game and then had a big heat wave this week as well.
Everyone's good. Look, we got a 7-day break, so training was well planned this week, well executed by our medical team and fitness team, and we're good to go.
Yeah, a few guys cramping. When you see that, what do you have to do in the following few days just to ensure that doesn't lead to some sort of injury or anything like that?
Yeah, there was some cramping last week, but look, nothing different. There's just their normal recovery protocols that they go through. These guys, they're very finely tuned. They recover really quickly, so we're all good.
JL just on Isaiah, is he playing the full game?
Yeah, no, he won't be the sub.
So you've struggled with scoring this year, and bringing him in another forward, is there a real focus on finding a way to have more impact on the scoreboard as a group this week?
Yeah, it's not as simple as that, clearly, but there's some things we can do with the ball. We can provide better options for the ball carrier, but there's things we can do with the ball. Sitting next to the opposition coach, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I think, I think all coaches are trying to maximise the supply they get, and clearly we didn't do that last week. So, bringing Duds in gives us another avenue.
Speaking of their attacking end, they've got the 3 tools down there. We're shooting at the moment, probably in Voss, Amos, and Tracy. You look at your side, you don't have really the tall defensive stocks to cover all those. Does that someone like a Ruben Jimmy have to then step up and play a bit taller?
Yeah, I've spoken about this before, that we're fortunate with someone like Ruben and even Hoffy to another degree, that they're capable of playing tall and small. Most teams have 3 forwards in their team. It's just how often they're on the ground at the same time. So we'll have matchups capable of being able to play on those guys.
Justin, the word crucial has been used this week in terms of your side in this derby. You've lost 2 games to start the season when Simon was very optimistic about contending this year. You've come off 4 losses at the end last season. How crucial is this game for you as a coach and for your playing squad this season?
Oh, it's important. It's important because it's the next game. I don't put any more weight on it than that. People are going to talk about my coaching career or where we sit as a football club or external expectations, all these sorts of things, but it's important because it's the next game and we're trying to improve our footy. Our footy hasn't been consistent enough. There's too big a gap between our best and worst, and that's what we're trying to improve on. Geelong game was disappointing. Last week we played a lot better footy. Didn't quite finish it off the way we'd like, and our aim this week is to take another step forward.
So how do you separate that this one next game up mentality with it being a Western Derby? It's going to be an Eagles home crowd, and everything that fans put on that as well. How do you separate the players from that?
No, it's pretty easy. Just value the right things, focus on the things that are going to help us play well, ignore the things that are outcome based and aren't going to help us play well.
Andy, what about yourself? How have you found your first Derby week, and have you noticed anything different? Have you been stopped in the street, or any advice, or how has it sort of been for you?
It's funny, being a Victorian, I haven't been involved obviously in a derby before, but on Tuesday in our match review, I actually said something like, "Can't wait for this week, but it's just another game." And Yowie came straight up to me afterwards and just said, "No, it's not another game." So I was on a steep learning curve there, but our players are super excited. There's definitely a certain feel that's different with playing Freo in a derby, our home game. And I can't wait to see the crowd there on Sunday, see the excitement in the people, and really looking forward to it.
How did you view it from an outsider before becoming coach?
Yeah, it's funny, like even the showdown in Adelaide, like I've never been involved in clubs that have had these games. Maybe the closest one was Anzac Day Eve when I was working at the Tigers, and that was a special game. I think, honestly, we're just lucky to play in these games. It's good practice to play. It's a bigger game. It's still worth 4 points, but it creates a bit of that finals-like feel, I'm assuming. And they're the type of games that we want to play in, so we're fortunate to get the opportunity to do that.
With a young squad though, how do you ensure that they don't get too carried away with the moment early on and maybe burn out a bit too much energy from that first bounce and have that big impact?
Yeah, look, that's part of it every week as well. Like our players we want to start every game really fiercely. So there was, I think there's some mature guys in our group that have played in a fair few derbies over the years, so we'll discuss that over the next day, what it looks like as a group, and we'll plan to start really well.
Justin, what do you think when you hear Gary Tolan, the coach, that it's not another game?
Oh, it's everything Minnie's just said is true. And largely what you're trying to do as a coach is to make sure that players aren't getting caught up in the hype and the external noise, and they're focusing on their roles like they would do any other game. Understanding that for us in particular, we go to Optus and usually a home crowd, and it's going to be an away crowd, pretty hostile environment. So it's about preparing for those things and accepting them and working your way through them on game day when they arise.
You've had the experience while you've throughout each game, for a first game or now as well. How do you approach those guys and how they handle that game?
The guys that are less experienced probably need a little bit more help. With dealing with the occasion and dealing with the ups and downs and momentum of a game. But that's the same in any game. It's about embracing what it's all about, but not losing focus on what's important.
Andrew, you said that you're okay with the 7-day break after the heat. Your 2 rucks in Archer and Bailey were clearly feeling the effects. Is that Flynn and Jack Williams, are they going to come in, and how do you look to try and curtail a pretty rampant Luke Jackson at the moment?
Yeah, look, Jackson's an incredible player. There's no question about that. So we'll have plans around that. But it was not ideal to lose our 2 rucks last week. Poor old Rubes had to go in there, and I'm not sure we quite prepped him for the centre bounce when the knee nearly went straight through his chest. But yeah, we've got some plans around that, and we'll work through them further as the next 24 hours. But yeah, it's a big part of the game. Freo is so strong at their clearance game at their best, and we understand that we've got to get that part right.
On that, Jack Graham's actually come into the extended squad. What does that mean for Liam Baker and his midfield role last week? Jack will play, which is great. Really important part to our team, and with Liam, having known Liam for a while, he's so versatile. Already we've played him in 2 positions in 2 weeks, but he really got used to that over the last few years of his career at the Tigers. So, as a coach, you're really fortunate to have players where you can just move where the game needs them, and we'll continue to do that with Bakes. And Brady Hoff, has he been struggling with a bit of illness this week?
Yeah, Hoffy's all good. He's fine to go.
Andrew, do you know what it was in Harley's explanation that fell short of, acquitting him?
Oh, no, I didn't deal with that, to be honest. We have people looking after that. So, that's all been dealt with now, and we'll move on.
Is that the league trying to bash the theatre out of the game?
No, look, we don't condone Harley's actions. It's not ideal, that part of it, but we know how good a person Harley is, and we're putting some really good support plans around him, and ensuring that he's going to be a great teammate for many years to come. So that's our focus with Harley.
How's he been pointing out there just seems to be so much focus on him, so much content?
Has there? I haven't really noticed. It's fascinating to see it, because I've never seen a 19-year-old in this scenario, but he's got a really strong support network around him. He's a balanced, humble kid, and he's been good. He's doing okay. So he's preparing to play and be another great teammate this week.
And JL, Harley was such a big barometer in the derbies last year. How do you go about trying to curtail that influence?
We just need to be aware of it. I think his first derby was outstanding. Second derby, he was a good contributor. He's sort of a guy that steps up in big moments by the looks of it. So, we need to be aware of it. Get the matchups right. But, you don't want to put too much focus into one person, because there's a couple others in there that might get a hold of you. So, we want to make sure we're balanced, with our attention. But, we'll need to make sure he doesn't, give him the start that he did in the first derby last year.
And me on the flip side, Josh Tracy has been described as the alpha male of Freo's forward line. How tough a task is it trying to stop a player like him?
Yeah, competitive key forwards are hard to stop, but we've got some competitive key backs, and they're really proud players, so we can't wait for that matchup.
Justin, Andy Hoying from Champion was on the radio this morning in Melbourne talking about ball movement, and he specifically mentioned you guys as having the second and fifth slowest ball movement out of all the games been played this season. Second slowest in Geelong, fifth slowest in Sydney. What do you need to do to improve that ball movement, and have you been moving the ball as you want to, or are you stopped along the way?
I think the first game, clearly our execution was not up to standard, and that put all sorts of pressure on us and allowed Geelong's pressure to look really good. There's been some signs. I wouldn't say we're moving the ball exactly the way we want to move the ball, but I think when we get our hands right, it looks good. We've probably been trusting the contest a little bit too much, especially in our back half. So we'd like to shift the ball a little bit more. But if you look at scores from defensive mid, I think we're top 3 in the comp. It's usually a barometer. Your ball movement's looking all right. Probably haven't scored off our attacking mid turnovers as much as we would have liked. Clearly, last week was a case of that. So we're still trying to improve it and get our balance right. But that can change pretty quick. We're only 2 games in.
Justin, do you feel like you spoke about the processes and not focusing on the outcome? Do you feel like your team is right there in terms of getting the process right?
I think mentioned it before. The gap between our best and worst is just too big at the moment. We'll have some great periods of footy, which is the footy we want to play, and then we'll go to sleep for 3 or 4 minutes and allow Sydney last week to kick a couple in a row, which were pretty soft goals, and it's like we need to be on for 120 minutes. That's what this game demands, and if you want to be a good team, that's what you need to dish up. It doesn't mean you have full control of the game for 120 minutes, but you're trying to execute your footy for 120 minutes, and we're just having those concentration lapses for whatever reason at the moment. Working through that. 2 rounds in, it's not going to be the finished product, but we're working towards it.
How do you sort of rate and compare the structure with having Boss in as a third tall rather than playing Reedy with Jackson? What are you going to do this week?
Team's not out yet. Like I said during the week, I think both options have their strengths. We'll get to see Jacko forward a little bit more with Reedy in the team. He's a really good aerial presence. I thought Vossi goes from his work rate was really high. Probably just didn't finish his work off last week, but created 5 shots on goal. You get Jacko's hunt and pressure and athleticism around the ball more. So it's a bit horses for courses, and you'll find out a little bit later on where we sit this week. But there's going to be times when we need a bigger ruck, stronger ruck, and there's times when Jacko's going to be well suited in the ruck.
And with Caleb Sarong had more time to analyse the game, he seems pretty determined to bounce back. How have you seen him during the week?
Sorry, who?
Caleb Sarong?
Yeah.
How have you seen him during the week, and were there any other levers you could have pulled to help free him up in any sort of way in that situation?
I think we can help Caleb through those tags on the field a little bit more. Support him, blocks. He's really selfless when that happens, but I think we can support him a little bit more to free him up. He spent a fair bit of time forward, midfield. I think that split was right last week. Competed his way through the game really, really well. He's had a good week. He understands that his game's at a level now where he's going to cop attention each week. Like I said, we need to help him better, but he's up for that challenge.
And he's such a proven performer in derbies as well. Is it something about it that he just lifts to another level?
I think he's got his processes right during the week, which allows him to play consistently week in, week out, and he doesn't get caught up in any of the hype. He understands what the game needs and where he needs to get to in his prep to get to that standard, and he's a pro. So he's been pretty consistent in the derbies, obviously, but he's been pretty consistent across the course of the last 4 or 5 years.
And many of the doors, do you tag Sarong, do you not tag? What are you thinking at this stage?
Yeah, it's certainly been on our minds all week. We'll have plans, for sure. You have to. But there's also some other pretty good players for the Dockers. So, we'll see where those plans land.
matchup point of view, but it's always the sum of the parts. There's lots of things you can change as coaches during a game if things get away from you. So but we'll have some plans around some of their players for sure.
What's your philosophy in general on taggers?
If you need to tag, you tag, and if you don't, you don't. Historically, I was a tagger, remember? I was a scrappy little tagger myself, so I probably should have employed a bit more. But I think that it's just horses for courses. Sometimes you really need it, and the game requires you to do it, and sometimes it maybe takes away a bit too much from your system. So want to be really open to both scenarios of being able to use one and not.
And coming into the West Coast group, was there a player that stood out where you thought that he's going to be a good target?
Good question. Probably not from in particular. I think we've got some guys capable of doing it, but there's probably not one in particular that I'm thinking.
I know you spoke about system, Andrew. Last week, everyone, we all talked about this quick game plan, but your ability to defend the ground last week at the Gabba was really noticeable, especially in the first half. Is that something you were impressed with, and is that something you're tweaking to try and make sure it works really well at Optus?
Yeah, it's interesting the defending the ground because this game's so linked between the phases of the game that it's not just you've got to get your offense right to be able to defend. You've got to get your contest method right to get the shape of the ground right. So there's so many phases involved in it. But for 2 quarters or just under 2 quarters last week, we did a lot right. There were some things in our game that we really went to work on again during this week because we didn't get them right. It's no surprise we won't be a finished product yet 2 weeks in. But there's some excitement around how we played last week with just some tweaks from the week before, which is good. There's obviously plenty of work to do still.
Andrew, obviously your side is a young and developing side, but how important is it to back up that performance against Brisbane this week to keep taking those steps in the right direction?
Yeah, we'll back up the performance. We did lose. We didn't get it done in terms of the result we were chasing. So it's not backing up the performance, it's improving the performance that we're trying to do each week. And that's part of AFL footy. You need to keep getting better, and the challenge is different because we're playing a different team in a different state on a different ground. But as I said, there were some things in our game we got right last week, which we improved on, and some things that we went to work on during the week, which is hopefully we see the results of that this weekend.
And Joe, with Shea Bolton, you could just see that spark that he added last week. It didn't quite fall through in all circumstances, but how excited are you knowing that it's just going to keep building in that aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. Yeah, gave us a spark, plays with great energy. He's flexible in where we can play him. But he didn't take his opportunities, and we didn't find him a few times last week. But like I said, after the game, he's going to build on whatever he produced last week. He's coming off a pretty low base, so his teammates will get more used to playing with him and understanding him as well as him understanding us. So it was a good start.
Did either of you guys catch up with Chugwater this week? I was hanging around for a few days.
No, it's a good try.
And a bit of a random question for both of you. How much have you both had to do with each other over the years, and how would you characterise your relationship?
I was wondering where that would go.
It's been awesome so far. We met 20 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Honestly, we haven't met before. We know people in common. Small world, the footy world, but we literally met outside the door before.